Growing
Yeah.
up, I had a single father who was pretty introverted. And of course, I grew up very shy.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make my dad proud. And a big part of that was
Yeah.
becoming a doctor in his eyes. So I got to college, I studied science, and was working on a pre-med track to go to medical school. And I realized that my med school application wasn't quite as strong as I would like. So I decided to join a lab to do some research, to get some
Yeah.
experience to help my application. And I fell in love with working with my hands, doing experiments, learning about cellular and molecular biology when it came to cancer development. And I was working on an animal model that was pretty promising, about to get published, and we were very excited around the results. But we also work with extroverts who are struggling to connect with people and build real, genuine relationships. You know, in this social media world where we're all concerned about followers and engagement and getting people to like us, we may not be as comfortable getting authentic, vulnerable, and building real connections and relationships that last a lifetime. And in my own journey, I realized, hey, getting good at conversation is one thing, but you need relationships to speak on your behalf, to get that journal published, to get that opportunity to go on a podcast, to get that client. And then you need the confidence to speak up and actually go up and approach people and jump in that entrepreneurial journey, to take action in your life. What we've realized over the years is that whether you're introverted or extroverted, or what we call ambiverted, meaning depending on the environment, you might feel comfortable or you might shy away from it, those relationships that you make create the opportunities for that massive success that we're all looking for. And it's fun now because when I meet people, they don't even guess that I'm an introvert. But when I get home, I'm exhausted. And that's how I know I'm still an introvert. Difference is I take action, even in the face of fear, even when I'm feeling a lack of confidence, because I know that every single person on this planet wants to talk about themselves, wants to share their story, wants an opportunity to get to know people, to get more connected. But the good news is, the more criticism you get, it means the more people are actually listening and paying attention to you.
This episode is brought to you by Venture Mastery, a platform bringing you the best talent from the entrepreneurial world. The platform which connects successful entrepreneurs to other business owners aiming to achieve success. If you've ever wanted to get more leads, more customers, and more revenue, if you ever wondered what successful business owners do differently, what strategies do they follow? How do they apply and execute? If you ever wondered how other entrepreneurs manage to scale their businesses, then you're in the right place. Our mission is to become one of the best educational resources for entrepreneurs who have tried and failed continuously. Anyone can build a business, but only 1% can master it, grow, scale, and prosper. We help you get into that 1% with proven methods used by seven-figure entrepreneurs from all around the world. We will cover all aspects of running a business successfully from a practical standpoint, covering everything you need to know about money and finance, leadership, sales, marketing, wealth management, mindset, and how to get you motivated day by day. So if you'd like to find out more about our programs, keep up to date with our upcoming online courses and one-to-one interviews, please follow us on either Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or other social media platforms of your choice at Venture Mastery, or check us out online at www.venturemastery.co.
Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Phil Amery, your host, founder and CEO of Venture Mastery, and today we have a special guest for you, AJ Harbinger. Did I pronounce correctly your name?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Phil.
How are you doing today, AJ? What are you working? You are after the COVID shot number 2, the second shot you got.
Yes, I'm feeling protected and I'm fired up about coaching clients and podcasting and growing the Art of Charm, my company that I co-founded 15 years ago.
You are the CEO of the Art of Charm.
Yeah.
I read quite a lot about you, about your background, about your story, and one of the most important questions I would ask you today. How did someone as PhD, cancer biologist, whatever, reach to the point to to a completely something else as a career path, meaning transforming people's life as I understand it. Can you tell us a little bit about this path, how you reached to this point? As I understand, you've been doing podcasting and you've been doing this business, the art of charm, for more than a decade now.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. So,
Yeah,
growing
yeah,
up, I had a single father who was pretty introverted. And of course, I grew up very shy.
yeah,
And I wanted to make my dad proud. And a big part of that was
yeah,
becoming a doctor in his eyes. So, I got to college, I studied science, and was working on a pre-med track to go to medical school. And I realized that my med school application wasn't quite as strong as I would like. So I decided to join a lab to do some research, to get some
yeah,
experience to help my application. And I fell in love with working with my hands, doing experiments, learning about cellular and molecular biology when it came to cancer development. And I was working on an animal model that was pretty promising, about to get published, and we were very excited around the results. And after about a year and a half of running the tests and working through the data, we decided to publish. We submitted our paper and we were scooped,
mm,
meaning another institute had found similar results, but
hmm,
their lab had more authority. It was more
yeah,
well respected and more
hmm,
published. So my principal investigator and boss on the project was a little bit panic stricken, and
hmm,
he decided to team up and partner with them to get our information published. And in the partnering, when it comes to modern research, well, credit gets handed out on the paper, and sometimes credit doesn't get handed out on the paper.
yeah,
And that's when I realized that hard work is not just enough to be successful.
yeah, yeah,
And I thought, as long as I worked hard, even though I was a little quiet, a little shy, didn't speak up for myself, I could still get ahead. And of course, that experience was pretty distressing. And I spoke with my boss, and he said, listen, you did phenomenal work on this. I don't want you to be discouraged from science. Have you ever considered a PhD instead of an MD?
mm,
And that was the first time I'd ever really considered going that route. Here I thought I would get the paper published and I would apply to medical school and move on. But I really thought about all the time spent in the lab working with animals and the exciting research. And I said, I think a PhD sounds like a lot of fun. I'd love to apply. And my boss obliged and helped me on my application and eventually got me into the University of Michigan. So I applied to one PhD program. I got in with my boss's blessing. But of course, at that phase, I couldn't work with him any longer. He was not a tenured professor. So I had to find a new lab. And of course, with that experience in my back of my mind, I wanted to find a lab that had a proven track record of successful publication. I didn't want to be scooped again. I wanted my hard work to be published and to be recognized. So I found a fantastic laboratory at the University of Michigan, and I started my PhD journey. But I just did not have the social skills or the confidence in myself at that point to keep up in this lab. It was very competitive. The principal investigator was world renowned, so he was constantly traveling, and he was an editor on multiple journals, so he was always very busy. And I was not good and adept at advocating for myself. I felt as an imposter. I felt that I didn't belong in graduate school. I wasn't smart enough, and therefore I wasn't voicing my opinions. I wasn't sharing my results. And I started to fall behind on the PhD track. And I was very discouraged and frustrated. And I talked to my dad and I said, I don't think science is for me. I don't think this is a good fit. And he was like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, I started this podcast for fun and it's starting to make a little bit of money. And I'm really passionate about learning social skills, learning confidence and charisma. I think I'm going to quit my PhD program and do this full time and start helping others who have struggled in these areas in their life. And the podcast turned into a coaching company. And now 15 years later, that is what I'm doing. So that's a little backstory of me dropping out, disappointing my dad, struggling myself with lack of confidence and social skills to get ahead.
that's amazing. At what age did you have when you started uh, your biologist career or something like that?
Yeah, I
What
was 20 when I started
20,
research.
and you work within this industry and you studied at least 5 years, I suppose.
So I had done a 4-year bachelor degree in science, and then I
Yeah.
worked for a year in the lab, and then I had started a PhD program, and I was 2.5 years in. So that's about 8.5 years of science that I
This
walked away
is
from.
this is what I wanted to take out from you because this would be important as a lesson for our audience that regardless that you are in a career and you've been in a career for 4, 5, 6, or probably even 10 years, it's never late to switch to something else which will lead to make your life happier, basically. Because, in my opinion, um, regardless that you had some failures or something like that, or it was quite hard for you as a biologist. It wasn't an easy job, um, but this one led to switch to something which, after all, made your life happier. Of course, it doesn't mean that it was easier because whatever you are doing, especially as an entrepreneur, even from science, I have quite good data that there are studies that at least 10 years need someone to make successful either as a professional or an entrepreneur. And there are, of course, many cases with quick win situations, and younger generations are more or less um, like listening to them because what they are going after is how to make money in as quick as possible, and this is something which will make them um, their career a disaster in most of the cases. Not focusing on something particular which will make them happy and work on it at least for 4, 5, or even 10 years. And in most of the cases, um, big or huge results come after 10 years. And probably it was in your case as well. Probably after 5 years of working on the art of charm, you did not achieve where you are now at this moment, as I understand.
Absolutely. My definition of an overnight success is 11 years in the making.
Yeah.
So many
Yeah.
people chase fast wins. And listen, we had our share of fast wins too to power us and motivate us. But
Yeah.
the entrepreneurial roller coaster, every up has plenty of downs. And finding something that you not only are passionate about, but that you are learning from and you're willing to develop that skill and
Yeah.
grow. Passion runs out. But if this is an area of your life that you want to continue to grow in, you love absorbing the knowledge and learning, that's such an important part of the entrepreneurial journey. Where the marketplace is now from 15 years ago, we didn't have Twitter, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't
Yeah.
have Snapchat and all of these
Yeah.
platforms.
Yeah.
So if you're not willing to keep learning and training and growing your craft and your skill set, the entrepreneurial
Yeah.
journey is maybe not a good fit for you. And I think
Yeah.
that's really difficult. Passion does wear out. And there's certainly been moments over the last 15 years where I wasn't very passionate about the mission, but it's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
learning of business that's really powered me.
It's the same with me. I've been learning, I think, I don't know, every day I learn something new.
Yeah.
It's either about what I'm doing, I'm working on, or listening to a podcast, or and I'm enjoying it. So I can't stop learning.
Yeah.
For me, it's not like a 9 to 5 job when people can't wait to the weekend so that they do nothing basically.
Exactly. You have to embrace change and embrace learning. two
Yeah.
important skills.
As I understand correctly, you are mostly focusing on with your services on people with troubles, with people who are more or less introvert. They don't really have confidence. Uh, they they might be even entrepreneurs, or they might be some professionals or simple people, whoever, and who could join to your coaching program. As I understand, you have special coaches within these program boot camps or whatever. Can you eventually tell us a little bit about your services, how someone can imagine it, how it really works basically, what advantages or benefits someone can get from a service like this, especially in days like this one with COVID, with this, I think
Yeah.
this last on year, maybe you had probably more cases or more clients, I suppose, and learned a lot, as you already mentioned, that you are particularly learning from each individual case something new, and you are integrating it in within your own services.
Absolutely. We believe that relationships are key to your success in life and your happiness, as the Harvard Happiness
Yeah,
Study has
yeah,
shown. The more connected you feel, the healthier you are, the more success you can achieve. And my journey has followed very similarly what we teach in our programs, and that's the three C's: conversation, connection, and confidence.
yeah,
You're right. Many of my clients come to me and they're introverted, they're shy, they lack in the conversation skills area. But we also work with extroverts who are struggling to connect with people and build
yeah,
real, genuine relationships. In this social media world where we're all concerned about followers and engagement and getting people to like
yeah,
us, we may not be as comfortable getting authentic, vulnerable, and building real connections and relationships that last a lifetime.
yeah, yeah,
And in my own journey, I realized, hey, getting good at conversation is one thing, but you need relationships to speak on your behalf, to get that journal published, to get that opportunity to go on a podcast, to get that client. And then you need the confidence to speak up and actually go up and approach people and jump in that entrepreneurial journey to take action in your life. So we focus on those three C's. And we started with a podcast, having conversations with experts in these fields and areas and successful entrepreneurs and businessmen and women. And what we've realized over the years is that whether you're introverted or extroverted or what we call ambiverted, meaning depending on the environment, you might feel comfortable or you might shy away from it, those relationships that you make create the opportunities for that massive success that we're all looking for. And how do you foster those? How do you build those quality relationships with all the platforms? And as you spoke of, now in a pandemic situation where we're not in rooms together, we're not going to events together like we used to, we're maybe not having as many social opportunities. So how do we stay connected in this world where there's more technology than ever, but there's no instruction manual on how to actually do
yeah.
this effectively? And that's what we offer our clients in our coaching programs. So we have virtual coaching over Zoom, and safety of the vaccine willing, we'll go back to some in-person training as well around nonverbal communication, your body language. What are those signals you're sending when you're not talking, when you're listening? How to actually effectively listen on a deeper level to what's being shared in the conversation. And then how to share the best side of yourself and bring out your personality, even if you're shy, introverted, or maybe having a little social anxiety.
Maybe it couldn't be a better example. For example, my case. I am not a native English. I am from the other part of the world. I started this video podcasting literally in January, the second week of January. And of course, my personality, I'm more like extrovert. I'm not an introvert, but sincerely, for me, it wasn't hard to get people to my show. and I'm not yet doing it full time. And you are practically uh, the number 8 uh, with whom I'm interviewing. And I'm doing mistakes myself, of course, but my plan is to do at least 100 this year. This is part of the strategy. I want to build my own brand. And till now, it was a joy. I met people I never, we didn't know each other. We don't know each other. This is the first time we are getting to know each other, and hopefully we can learn more about ourselves, about our background. And since I'm planning to offer courses from people like you, entrepreneurs or people with highly skilled or someone who achieved something in his or her life, and offer courses especially for the young generation who are willing to learn from people who have the proof, who have a track record of what they achieved throughout their lives, as against to, for example, traditional schooling, where they, in most of the cases, they don't get this kind of education or guidance.
Absolutely. I think the more that we can inspire the next generation to take action, to find their voice, to pursue what inspires them, the greater we'll all be. And I've certainly been in uninspiring jobs, roles that I did not enjoy because I was trying to make others in my life happy without thinking about my own passions and interests. And that's never a fun place to be. So I'm encouraged by your journey and what you're starting here, and getting more of these conversations out there to motivate others is a big part of what
Yeah,
we're about at the Art of Charm.
yeah. And maybe it's what's important to think about this, like you have only one single life, and
That's
make it
correct.
possible to make it a wonderful life, because there are many opportunities. But you mentioned earlier that even for personalities who is introvert or extrovert, and it could depend on the circumstances or the environment, because someone might behave as an introvert or extrovert in certain environment and
Yeah.
completely different in another one. And probably you met such cases more often with your clients, and you had to manage them, have to get rid of certain behaviors or something like that in such some
Well,
circumstances.
there's no doubt that we live in an extroverted, rewarded world.
Yeah,
The more
yeah,
extroverted you are, the more
yeah,
you can advocate for yourself, speak up, share your voice, your opinion, your thoughts, beliefs, the greater the reward will be. So,
yeah,
for those of us who are introverted, how do we navigate that? What are the skills that we need to develop? And it's fun now because when I meet people, they don't even guess that I'm an introvert. But when I get home, I'm exhausted. And that's how I know
yeah,
I'm still an introvert.
yeah,
The
yeah,
difference is I take action, even in the face of fear, even when I'm feeling a lack of confidence, because I know that every single person on this planet wants to talk about themselves, wants to share their story, wants an opportunity to get to know people, to get more connected. So the skills that we teach are all about how do you ask those right questions? How do you listen intently to what someone else is sharing? And how do you connect through story with that person? If you go into every conversation with that mindset, with simple skills that are scientifically proven to make you more charismatic, more interesting, and ultimately more connected to others, the greater success and happiness you'll have in life.
yeah. And do you practice some sort of trainings where your clients can practice such techniques or something like that? Mm,
Absolutely. So, all of our training programs involve interaction with others and feedback. So you'll see us demonstrate it in conversation. And if you're a fan of the podcast, you could hear it every single week, how we interact with our guests, how we storytell, how we connect with the people who come on our show, and even in interviews like this. And then we break down the video with our clients. So not only are you getting practice, repetition, and opportunity to interact, but also that feedback on where you could have taken the conversation, how you could have slightly changed that question to add some emotion to it, to get the other person more engaged, and when to hold back and when silence is okay. I know many of us, when we feel anxious, we want to fill those gaps, those moments of silence with something. But science actually shows silence connects us as well. So when you know how to add a silent pause and a break in conversation, it allows the other person to feel actually heard and connected with you.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I just remember my first interview with a copywriter, and I interrupted him quite often. And I step by step learned how to listen, because in my case, what is most important, what you are, what's your message, not necessarily mine. I just want to give some of my feedbacks or some of my thoughts or questions, whatever. Uh, by the way, probably one more question. What would you find more important in, let's suppose someone has has quite a good confidence, but his communication skills are not that good. Is he in a more or less in an advantage, or vice versa? It's better to have communication skills, and it's easier to learn or practice the confidence part. What's your thoughts about it?
So in those situations where it's a confidence first, communication second, I think you're at a disadvantage. I think understanding and mastering communication, in fact, Warren Buffett says the greatest investment you can make in yourself is to invest in your ability to communicate. He famously took a public speaking program to get over his fear of public speaking. Your
Yeah,
ability to communicate your ideas, sell, pitch, connect, relate is the single most important skill set in your life. Confidence can be built, and as we know, confidence can also be taken away.
yeah,
Confidence
yeah,
is
yeah,
momentary. But
yeah.
communication skills, when you develop them properly, they can never be taken away from you, and they become your superpower that allows you to be successful in every area of your life. So I love working with confident clients who lack communication skills, because it's pretty easy to get them moving in the right direction, because the confidence leads to action. As we know, a lack of confidence leads to inaction. And we also understand the science around building confidence in yourself through exposure therapy. So putting yourself in challenging situations and then looking back at what you've been able to accomplish and celebrating those wins, no matter how big or small, create the building blocks to confidence. And we believe that confidence is made up of three factors. It's your attitude. So how do you speak to yourself? What is that inner voice? Is it constantly critical? Is it constantly focused on the negative? It's knowledge. If you don't know how to do something, if you don't know anything about the topic, it's very difficult to be confident. And the last is experience. And the great part about life is experience you can gain every single day if you're willing to take action. So
Yeah,
that's how we
ex-
build
yeah.
confidence.
Experience is extremely important, because if you have experience, let's suppose 5, 10 years in certain field, there's for sure you can talk about it because you have loads of experience. But regarding the confidence, I think I watched a movie several years ago, or something like that, that a little child, a girl who was at school, um, but in a village, and her confidence was huge, because she was basically the best in class, and went to a huge city where she realized that she's not that important as it used to be at home.
Yeah.
and probably wasn't as good as in her previous class. And that can destroy that confidence at that moment. Because
Absolutely.
and probably you met such cases as well with your clients.
We like to think of confidence as a skyscraper.
Yeah,
It's difficult to build and it requires maintenance. You can't build a building and it'll be standing 100, 200 years from now without having a team of people taking care of it, painting it, fixing the roof. Because our world, our environment is harsh. Every
yeah.
day, something is chipping away at that confidence.
The new
So it's your
skyscraper
job to
is
maintain
being
it.
built. It
Exactly.
will be higher. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So you have to work to maintain that confidence by challenging yourself, being honest with yourself, and being willing to celebrate those small wins around the way
yeah,
as you
yeah,
enjoy the process of learning.
yeah, yeah. And to handle effectively the critics you are getting probably on a daily basis. I checked few of my mentors I'm following on YouTube or Instagram, and I noticed that they are getting a huge amount of negative critics, and even Gary Vaynerchuk or Grant Cardone or
Yeah.
Ty Lopez or whoever, the bigger you are, the more popular you are, the more critics you get. And this is something you also need to get prepared, especially even in entrepreneurship. The bigger your company grows, uh, the more punches you will get on a daily basis. So you need to get
Criticism is
prepared.
fantastic. It means you're heard, it means people are listening and paying attention. And realize that those who are taking action, those who are successful, don't have the time to be critical, to write that negativity, to post that, to thumbs down, to dislike you, to give you the 1-star review.
Yeah,
So oftentimes, those bits of feedback are coming from people who are not in the arena, who are not actually working, who are not putting things into their life into action. It's much easier to sit behind a keyboard and a screen and type a negative message than it is to go out there and do, produce, make, create, start something. So no matter what phase of business building or growing your venture you're at, you will face criticism. You will face people who don't believe in you. You will face doubters. But the good news is the more criticism you get, it means the more people are actually listening and paying attention to you.
yeah, that's good because even, for example, in case of big brands, when they are coming out with a new advertorial and people are starting to blame or critique, but that's also part of the strategy because critics are also advertising for the brand, for the company or
Yep,
the person or whatever. Yeah.
absolutely. Criticism means you're heard, you're seen.
Any special message if you have for our audience, anything especially for introverts or younger generations thinking about starting a business, or they are afraid or they don't really have confidence?
I want to share with you the most impactful word in the English language because.
Because
As an introvert, we often ask questions. We're great listeners. We don't often share our thoughts, feelings, motivations, interests, passions. So start working to add because into conversation to create an opportunity for you to share, for you to add, so that if you ask a question, you listen to someone's answer, then share something about yourself and add a because and an explanation. And that will allow for the conversation to flow more naturally, for the other party to really start to connect with you. And that's been a powerful lesson in my life as an introvert. I love asking questions. I love listening. I don't often share as much as I should. So that simple reminder to add because to every conversation, you'll find more opportunity to connect than you know what to do with.
AJ, thank you. It was a joy meeting you and listening to you. And I really hope that one day or another, sooner or later, we have another session about some other topics. And it
Would love to. It was a
was a
great
joy
meeting you.
meeting you.
I'm
Have a
excited for
wonderful
what you're
day.
building,
Have a
and
wonderful
I
day. And let's keep connected.
absolutely, and I encourage your audience to check out the Art of Charm podcast for more social
Okay.
skills and confidence
Okay.
tips.
Okay.
Great meeting you. Stay
Yeah.
warm.
Yeah.
Bundle up.
Okay. Have a nice day, AJ. Hope
You
to see you
too.
soon. Bye.
This episode was brought to you by Venture Mastery, one of the leading educational platforms for entrepreneurs aiming to grow and scale their businesses. Thanks for tuning in with me, your host, Phil Amery. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where we'll get you updated with our upcoming courses, one-to-one interviews, and latest entrepreneurial success stories from around the world. I'd be honored to hear your thoughts and feedback. So please leave your comments and help us in producing even more engaging and valuable content for our next episodes. Thanks for joining us.